All right, but this is the one. This was actually my favorite one that I found. This story, it's a couple years old, but they rerun it in these times during the holiday season, and I think for good reason. And so, Renee, I think it's important that we talk about as we approach Christmas, the coked up Santa Claus.
Mm.
Okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I'm being a little bit funny with it, but really what I'm talking about is the Coca-Cola inspired origins of Santa.
Hmm.
And so what this article is saying, we can reclaim Christmas from capitalism by Valerie Van Pan. And this image here comes from a 1930s Coca-Cola ad. And what this article summarizes, and a couple others that I found that I'll put in the show description so people can follow up in detail. But essentially, what they're saying here is that the much like so many other popular icons, the symbol that we have is not really reflective of the history, and is born out of a marketing
Right.
program. So this is really where we get the modern form of Santa Claus from this 1930s Coca-Cola commercial. Because the history of it is of Christmas is really kind of interesting. So just kind of quickly here, people will validate the tradition by pointing to Santa Claus's pagan origins as a bringer of gifts in the heart of winter, from the Germanic pagan Yule festival to their god Woden, strikingly similar to the Norse god Odin, to the Dutch Sinterklaas and the English Father Christmas. Or for those uncomfortable with pagan rites, Santa Claus can be traced back to the legend of the 4th century Saint Nicholas as a Greek Christian bishop known for giving gifts. This belief quenches both the need to honor the saint and absolves followers of heathenism. But when you see Santa today, all fat and white and rosy cheeked, you're seeing an image created, promoted, and marketed by the Coca-Cola Company. Michigan artist Hayden Sunblom created the Santa Claus we all know well in 1931 for Coke's Thirst Knows No Season campaign. Prior to 1931, Santa Claus was depicted in all sorts of ways in mass media, from an old Diogenes-type man to a bishop to a sprite-like troll. That makes Coke's Santa quite possibly the first time a corporation conjured a deity to sell a product.
Wow.
Right? It's fascinating, right? And then same thing here. I don't know if I even remember this or didn't know this, but we replay the same holiday music and movies. We even replay the same TV shows that came in the 1960s. A Charlie Brown Christmas aired in 1965, commissioned and sponsored by
Yeah.
Coca-Cola.
Yep. That
Yeah.
I knew. Yep. And it does. It
Um,
plays every year and continues to play
yeah.
every year. Mm-hmm.
This I also thought was interesting too. They talk about how a lot of us get wrapped up in nostalgia, but at one point nostalgia was considered a mental illness. I just thought that was
I
funny. Like
mean,
we're all made mentally ill.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was,
Funny.
there's a couple more that I could pull up real quick too, but it's essentially making these points that I think a lot of us knew, maybe without even some of these specific details, that these holiday seasons are marketing campaigns that have
Right.
very little to do with religion, with well, with the um what is written about, in this case Jesus, and uh so like this one here talks a little bit about that too, like the political co-optation of pre-existing belief practices and uh ways of acknowledging the holiday. This one from The Conversation, uh by James Lancaster. When English Puritans outlawed Christmas in 1647, it was not without good reason. When American Puritans, in turn, outlawed Christmas in Massachusetts between 1659 and 1681, it too was not without good reason. Until the
Hmm.
mid-19th century, Christmas was a time for drunkenness and debauchery. Men dressed like women dressed like men, servants dressed like masters, boys dressed like bishops, everyone else either dressed as animals or wore blackface, all to subvert the godly order in the safety of anonymity. Christmas was a carnival of drink, cross-dressing, violence, and lust during which Christians were unshackled from the ethical norms expected of them the rest of the year. No wonder Puritans wanted it banned. Now that sounds like a Christmas worth celebrating. That's what I'm talking about. Bring that Christmas back. That's what
Look, Stephen agrees with you.
That's what I'm saying. How do we get back to that? All this presents and Christmas and quiet singing. Get out of here. Like let's but yeah, so they talk, it talks about the origins having to do with Saturnalia, that recognizing December 25th is never, described as having anything to do with the arrival of the Messiah. December was the voluptuous month, like it was and this one here, even Christmas charity was far from innocent. Gifting was the hallmark of the season, was rarely given freely, but demanded with threats of mischief or violence. In the practice known as waysailing, during the 17th and 18th centuries, roving bands of poor men and boys asserted their Christmas right to enter the houses of the prosperous and claim the finest food and drink, singing, "We've come here to claim our right, and if you don't open up the door, we will lay you flat upon the floor." Right? So no wonder they were like, man, get out of here with this Christmas stuff. And then they eventually turned it into consumerism, and that's where we are today. So the articles just basically, all of them in one way or another just say, my summary is of oversimplification. Is just the way they describe it is like the corporate world just said, we can use these vaguely defined beliefs and holidays, and we can take advantage of them and turn them into. So they talked about at one point, one of the articles talks about the reason we have the tree is not having anything to do with any belief or anything written in the Bible or any of that. It was more of a co-opted pre-existing practice. And then it was used as a mechanism of getting people's kids to stay home and stay in the house around a tree, and then using gifts to bribe them. That the gift part wasn't even. It was like, one of these articles is that's what they're arguing. It started with. It was like, how do we keep these kids in the house and quiet? Have a tree, and we'll say, well, we put the gifts there, and that'll do it. So
interesting.
Yeah, anyway. So, but the Coca-Cola one was my favorite.
That's actually really, really interesting. That would be the first one, and also not surprising.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.